Hello, everybody. This is Lori. Hope everybody's doing well. I am a life coach specializing in relationships and career growth. I am the owner of Live Deep Within. And I got a couple of days off before I was able to come back and talk to you all. Thank you to everybody that has subscribed. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that's been listening. I also appreciate all of that positive feedback. I think it's great and it's really motivating me to share all of my knowledge with you all, my experience that has been going on. And today I wanted to stress a little bit about, I remember a situation that I wanted to share with you all where me and my husband, we used to hang out with this couple. And this couple, lasted about 8 years together. I don't know how, because the compatibility was just not there. There was just no respect. There was just none whatsoever. And I remember my husband and I always feeling so uncomfortable in those situations. And we would talk a lot. And at that time, my husband, for the first 2 years, had actually had advised me, to take some therapy sessions with him. And I remember that that's kind of where my love started to learn more about and love what therapy really has to offer. And it actually offers you a lot of knowledge, a lot of maybe questions that people have, that it's actually answered within yourself. So that's what gets so exciting. Now, coaching is a little bit different from therapy. Therapy is actually done by a certified or licensed professional counselor. But some things that I learned about that I wanted to share with you, especially with this issue with this couple, is that, man, both of them really had some serious, deep anger issues. So today we're going to talk about anger issues because it's a very challenging and distressing situation when one of you has some serious underlying anger issues. And I want to be able to help those identify and recognize, what this looks like. And if you're able to resolve it, and also understanding that sometimes the other person's not going to accept that they actually have anger issues. The biggest thing that somebody can do for themselves is accept their faults and accept what needs to be changed. All of us need change. All of us do. None of us are perfect. I constantly am asking for those to let me know what maybe I can improve. And once you start accepting what you can improve within yourself, it becomes a little easier to accept. So when somebody has these anger issues, a lot of the times it's either their ego or their pride that doesn't allow them to grow. Now, some of the identifying factors that I have learned with this, when somebody's struggling with anger issues, and the signs is that you start to see that these people have very intense and frequent outbursts. I'm not going to lie, that was me in my 20s. I didn't know how to control my anger, and it took me a while to really understand why I was having those intense outbursts. But this is an evident sign of major anger issues when they're actually sudden, they're intense, and then they start to have frequent outbursts of rage and aggression. And that doesn't mean it has to be physical. A lot of the times these outbursts, it's very, it could be either verbal or, it could be a physical confrontation. Now, a lot of the times these people with anger issues, they have difficulty managing their frustration. So if you have a significant other that's struggling to handle, these frustrations calmly, and they react with an outburst, more than likely that they are not able to handle these difficult frustrations, because you should be able to handle these difficult frustrations, with patience. But instead, they show you impatience, they show you irritability, and they have a tendency to overreact when things either don't go their way or at times they think that something else is going on that's not real to them. Some other uncontrolled anger escalations that we need to pay attention to is that when you disagree or you have conflict with an individual that has these anger issues, it's very difficult to control their emotions. They cannot control their emotions. They tend to escalate rapidly, making it very challenging to have communication with them or to even have any type of conflict resolution. They just will not open up at all. They cannot control that anger, and that they're so in tune with their emotions. They don't know how to control their emotions. So therefore, this is what makes the anger outburst within them. A lot of them will have verbal aggression. A lot of times anger problems, they can manifest as verbal aggressions towards others, such as shouting, insulting language, belittling comments, or even threats. If you notice a pattern of this is actually considered verbal abuse. And what I'm meaning by insulting language is if you're trying to calm someone down and they continue to insult you with either language or telling you very abusive shouting, they don't know how to discuss things, that is verbal abuse. Okay, this is going to indicate that there's really a deeper anger issue going on there. Now, some will say that, well, I don't get physical. That doesn't make it right either. Okay, just because you're not physical, you're not showing physical aggression to that person, verbal aggression can just be as bad. But physical involves, of course, punching walls, throwing objects, pushing, shoving, or any acts of violence towards loved ones. Okay, physical, in my opinion, can also be when they throw the phone at you, when they throw things at you. That's physical as well. Physical does not have to be an actual touch to your body, but physical aggression can be that as well. Another sign of people having anger issues is blaming others. These people that have anger issues, they struggle with actually taking responsibility for their own action, and it's easier to be blaming others. It's easier to blame others for their triggers and their anger reactions, and they really refuse to take accountability, and they fail to recognize the impact of their behavior around them. They tend to state to you that you're the issue. You know what you're doing. You know how you did it. You, just blaming others. Those type of people, the reason why they blame you is because the fact that they don't know how to take that accountability for their own anger issues. Another issue that they may have is explosive temperament. Okay, this includes extreme mood swings, like going from calm to explosive anger in a matter of seconds. That really underlies some anger issues. I know that this couple that I knew of, they could be great lovey-dovey, and then all of a sudden in seconds, it's like boom, something just like a bomb exploded. And both of them had this anger issues that they didn't know how to control those emotions. They didn't know how to control themselves. And therefore it disoriented, their way of thinking. It was the most uncomfortable thing to actually be in. I know that's why me and my husband kind of stopped, hanging around with them, because that kind of energy, you don't want to be around that. You don't want to be around that type of bad energy. And it was both of them. Now getting to know both of them, I got to know both of them separately. They both had some severe anger issues. And what's so sad is that they both don't understand the cause of their anger. Why? Because they don't want to accept that something can be wrong. And that's what makes it so sad, that people will not change unless you accept accountability for your actions. Accept accountability that you cannot be right all the time. There is nothing wrong with knowing that you have an issue with yourself. That is the first step of being mature and knowing that you want to change. Now, a lot of these people, sometimes I think they don't want to know about their anger issues because either it comes from childhood experience, which a lot of people don't want to hear. Their upbringing plays such a significant role when we start to shape ourselves as adults. And if we don't get the help to make us grow into better adults, all that trauma events is going to be so unstable for your environment and for your significant other. These emotions leave such scars in people, and we have to face that these emotional scars need to be healed, but you can't do it on your own. Okay, I couldn't do it on my own. I've never known anybody to be able to do it on their own. A lot of them either took some type of therapy to understand and reveal what the unresolved conflict is. So, going with this unresolved conflict just builds up and builds up and builds up, and over time the frustration and the anger starts to take over. Then the communication starts to break down. Then there starts to be frequent arguments. There's unaddressed grievances, and it just causes such a toxic atmosphere that this is where I saw these two couples. It was the most toxic thing I've ever seen, and both of them just had some unresolved issues. Now, we all have to deal with stress and pressures. That's life. That's the way it is. We all have stressors, okay? But when you allow your pressures and your financial worries and your personal challenges, if you allow all of this high level of stress with no coping mechanism, oh, you're getting ready to heighten that irritability and that outburst of anger. You need to have coping mechanisms. If you do not have coping mechanisms in life as an adult, you're never going to get anywhere in life. And that's my opinion. I only say this because of what I've learned, what I've seen, and what I've seen others grow. Now, sometimes a lot of these people that have this underlying anger issue, they have mental health issues. And a lot of them don't want to accept that depression and anxiety are mental health issues. And it does contribute to anger problems. That doesn't mean you're weak. That means that you have an underlying way of amplifying these negative emotions. And it's going to make it harder for you in the long run to manage that anger effectively. Now, substance abuse can also be a reason for anger management. I was really shocked when someone told me I was mean when I was drinking. I was shocked. That was the first time anybody's ever told me that. I'm like, what? I've never heard that. It really blew my mind. So that's something I'm gonna take a look at and ask, people that I sit around and drink with, am I this way? Was that just a one-time thing someone told me? But we need to be careful when it comes to substance abuse. Sometimes substance abuse can be alcohol or drugs, and that can actually impact your mood, okay? Some people can feel more irritable and have more aggression when you're drinking. I know that with these two couples, it always started when they both started to drink. That's when their emotions ran high. Who knows what was going behind closed doors, but if they were fighting like that in front of us and saying those kind of things in front of us and putting their hands on each other in front of us, it made me wonder what really was going on behind the scenes. Now, how do you deal with these people that have this type of aggression? It takes a lot of practice. You have to stay calm and remain calm. That is the hardest thing to do, but it is so possible to do it. I've been in situations where I'm with just a person that just has some anger issues, just blaming you for their anger, blaming you for reacting that way, blaming you for because the situation didn't turn out the way they wanted. And it's hard when you're getting blame, and trying to stay calm. But when you do stay calm, that makes you a bigger, better person. What really helps sometimes is I have to tell myself, and I take deep breaths, And I try to speak in a very, very, in a tone. I have done that before where I'm trying to speak to the person kindly and I'm trying to really calm them down, and they're still really reacting with their uncontrolled emotions. And it really surprises me how adults really don't know how to control those emotions. Another way to deal with them is active listening, actively trying to understand their perspective. But sometimes it's very hard because they don't even know how to express what they're even feeling. Trying to give them that full attention, trying to maintain eye contact, trying to avoid interruptions, that can kind of help to digress them to being angry. Also, using I statements. I statements always help. Instead of saying you do this, you do this, you do this, always try and do the I feel hurt when, or I would rather this, or instead of saying you always make me feel, try to use I statements. I'm still working on trying to use I statements in things so that way people don't feel that I'm trying to attack them, because of course that's not my intention. Also, empathy and validation. I try to put myself in that other person's shoes. When I see someone having an anger issue, I'm not going to lie, I feel bad for them. I really do. I feel like they've never learned how to hold those emotions. I feel like they've never learned their own behavior. And having empathy, that I respect what they're feeling, but at the same time, this is very inappropriate behavior. It's not appropriate at all. Sometimes timeouts are required, especially if it's going to get physical. Timeouts are something that is very, very required. I wish I knew this when I actually knew both of this couple when they were together. I don't think they're together anymore, but I wish I would have known this. But you know what? Unfortunately, even with this knowledge that I could have showed them, both of them probably thought that there was nothing wrong with them. They probably thought that they had no issues that they had to work on. So then in the long run, I don't even really think that it was really going to work, because it only works when two partners are really trying. Two partners are trying to be compatible with each other. And that's one thing that when I get with my coaching in relationships, is trying to make people understand that it takes two, not just one. Now, there are times that sometimes you're just going to have to work on your own because the other partner doesn't want to, but then that becomes a choice that you want to do. What do you want to do with your life? I hope that this educated some of you all. I know I've been in those type of relationships. It's actually exhausting. And I know that there's probably been times that I was exhausting, which is understandable. But I hope that you're able to appreciate this podcast, share it with people that you might know. And until next time, guys, thank you for listening.